Okay, we're going to take a quick look at simplifying equations. And to simplify an equation, it's to take something that's complex or complicated and make it simpler. So, in this case, we have 2x plus 5x. We can look at that a bit more in more detail. So 2 lots of x, that's this. 2 lots of x is this part here. And 5 lots of x is this part here. So if we have 2 lots plus another 5 lots, that gives us a total of 7 lots of x. And that would look like 7x. I've drawn it out here. Here's 2 lots of something plus another 5 lots of something gives us 7 lots of something. We don't know what something is, but it's a something. And in this case, we've called that something x. Now, to simplify equations without drawing them out requires understanding a little bit about like terms. So an important idea in simplification is to collect like terms, and if we look at them in separate parts, a term is part of an expression. Like means something that's similar or the same, and collecting means grouping them together. So what does that mean in terms of algebra? Well, here's an expression. The expression is 2a plus 3b squared. Here's a term, 2a, and here's another term, 3b squared, and here's a plus in the middle. That's what separates the terms. This part here is an expression. The individual parts are called terms. And in fact, we can break up a term further. This part here, this a is called a variable, and this 2 is called a coefficient, and this 3 is called a coefficient, and this b squared is called, well, the b is called a variable, and the 2 is called a power. So if you think about a term, it has 3 parts. The coefficient, one or more variables, and powers that are attached to each individual variable. We could even write a variable like this. We could have, or a term like this. Let's say we had 4a squared b. This squared here is attached to this a, and we have then we have an a and a b, 2 different variables, and we have a 4 in the front. The 4 in the front, that's the coefficient. Just means the number in front of the variables. This here is the base. That's the variable. This bit here is the power attached to the base. And here is another base, or another variable. So we have 2 variables, a power, and a coefficient. Now, we say that 2 terms, here's a term here and here's a term here, they're similar or like if their variables and attached powers are the same. So 2a is one term, 3b squared is another term. They are not like terms because their variables and powers are different. 2a though and 3a are like terms because their variables are exactly the same. We can ignore the coefficients in this case. We're really only interested in the variables and the powers. So 2b squared and 3b squared are like terms because they both have b squared in them. But 2b and 3b squared are not like terms because this b doesn't have a squared on it. It doesn't have a little 2 up here, whereas this one does. Okay, so these are the 2 basic ideas that we build on to collect like terms. So we've done the like terms part. Now we have to do the collecting part. So, like terms can be collected together. 2a and 3a are like terms because they both have a's. If they are like, we can then add the coefficients together. So if we have 2 lots of a plus the 3 lots of a, that means we have a total of 5 lots of a. Now in this case, we've got 2a plus 2b plus 3a. This 2 lots of a plus another 3 lots of a gives us 5 lots of a plus the 2b left over. Now in this case here, we don't have any like terms. This is an a squared, this is an ab, this is an a. None of those are the same. A is definitely not the same as a squared. So we just rewrite the equation. We can't simplify it any further. In this case, we have an a squared b, and an ab squared. None of those are the same. This this has an a squared b and this has an ab squared, they're different. In this case, the 2 is attached to the a, and in this case, the 2 is attached to the b. And this a squared doesn't have a b at all, so they're not like. We can't do anything with them, we just rewrite it. In this case, though, they all have an a squared, so we can add all the coefficients together. 2 plus 3 plus 5 gives us 10a squared. We have 2 lots of a squared plus another 3 lots of a squared plus another 5 lots of a squared, which gives us 10 lots of a squared. So the variables and the associated powers, must be the same to collect them together. And remember that addition's commutative, so we can just change the order if we want the a's to sit next to each other. So we could have rewritten this as 2a plus 3a. Gives us 5a plus the leftover 2b. I hope that helps with simplifying equations. Thank you, everyone.